All right, guys, welcome to Disenthralled. Today we're going to be talking about jury nullification, what it is, how you can use it to do some really cool things. Let's kick it off with Patrick here.
You're Ryan, I'm Patrick.
Yeah, I'm Ryan.
I am so excited, guys. I cannot tell you. I've literally been waiting 6 months of my life for this interview. From the moment that he got, this is Eric. He's been grand juror on a jury here in Texas for 6 freaking months, which we can get into. But from the time that he got involved, I knew nothing about jury nullification or how it was a helpful thing. I was one of the people that just runs from jury duty because it interferes with my life. Mm-hmm. And so when I learned of this concept, I got super excited and I instantly contacted him. I'm like, "Oh, you're on a jury. Let's have an interview. I want to hear everything about it." And he's like, "Well, I can't talk about anything until like after it's all over." And so I've been like just sitting here, biting my nails, waiting for this moment. So I am super excited and pumped for this interview. Also with us, we have Bob Smilie. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. He is a family man, married for 22 years with 4 children. He is a truck driver with a 1-acre farm, a small goat dairy, chickens, rabbits, a garden. Like many, Ron Paul was a catalyst for him to start fighting the system. He is an activist for 9/11 Truth, anti-fluoride, and became a jury nullification representative not long after the Waco PD killed the bikers on May 17th, 2015, which is something we've never talked about on here. He went to a couple rallies and then decided to get involved with the Fully Informed Jury Association. He's been going to gun shows, open carry walks, political events, normal events, the cannabis convention, sidewalks, and markets to talk about juror rights. He feels that jury nullification is the last peaceful barrier we have in protecting our neighbors from an overzealous government. So welcome, Bob. I appreciate you coming along with Eric today.
Thank you.
It's going to be a really, I think, a powerful show.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited. All right. So let's start with the very basics. Like, what is jury nullification?
Jury nullification is the right of the jurors to not only judge the facts of the case, but the law itself. And if you think that the law is unjust, you can nullify it by voting not guilty. Do you have a better explanation of it?
Well, nullification, you get to be the government you want it to be. President passes or signs an executive order, you can nullify it by saying if a guy is up on trial because of a bad executive order, you can nullify it, and there's nothing they can do to you. You can say not guilty. The Congress, all the laws they pass, not guilty. But the Supreme Court rules on that one juror can say not guilty and hang the jury. Of course, you want the whole jury to say not guilty and let the defendant go home completely free. So with a hung jury, you only they can actually recharge or retry the case as is. It's usually weak, or they'll reduce the charges, which is usually what happens to a misdemeanor, or they will drop the charges. But
I liked what you said. So it's like your ability in that brief moment for that one person's life to sort of step in for the government and make it how you want it to be.
yes.
Wow. I am an anarchist. I'm a voluntarist. I don't believe that government is the way to make change in the world at all. I believe it's force, and force is immoral almost universally. So I have been, for the past year and a half, very disengaged from politics. If I don't think the government is the way to make change in the world, then I'm not really involved with elections and politics, and I just don't care. I don't want a master, so I'm not going to worry about the race to pick one for me. But this got me reactivated because no matter, I even think in a free society that we would have juries, and the juries would have this power to nullify bad verdicts or bad charges. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I am definitely on board with this, and I think it's something that other voluntarists and anarchists could get on board with as well. So you said. What was the language you used for jury nullification was even if they broke the law.
Yeah, even if they broke the law, if the law is unjust or if the punishment for breaking that law is unjust, then you
yeah.
can nullify it by saying not guilty.
So if all the evidence shows that these guys did that thing that's against whatever law there is, right? That you can set them free, or if whatever punishment is specified for that law is absurd.
Right, which has happened in the past too, like with alcohol prohibition. When alcohol was made illegal, there was a lot of jury nullification going on. People not wanting people to get punished for producing alcohol.
And actually, on prohibition, nullification happened in there was about 60% of the districts had acquittals. Or I'm sorry, there's a lot of court districts that had 60% acquittals. So the people were speaking back to the government saying, hey, we don't like this bad law. We want it changed. And the DAs couldn't get the convictions they wanted, so they brought in the 21st Amendment and lifted the ban on alcohol.
And didn't you tell me something about Alaska with cannabis also?
Yeah, there's been cases where they couldn't get convictions on like an ounce of weed to where they had to change the law and they weren't going to bring charges. I don't know exactly what that was, but nullification, people weren't putting people in prison for it up there. There's been plenty of times that nullification has changed what our legislature has done, and you know, they're bad laws. They've had to overturn them.
How amazing is this? So it's mind blowing for me. That's why I've been so excited about this interview. So if the legislature passes a law, if the cops enforce a law, if the Supreme Court of the United States says that something is illegal, you can basically be like, F you.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is awesome. That is
You are the government you want it to be.
yeah.
And but we also need to know what the Constitution says. We need to know what those rights are. We need to know that like for instance, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. And in America, state and federal, we have over 23,000 different laws against our Second Amendment. We should all be informed enough to go in there and say any bad laws, gun laws, not guilty. I mean, every single one of us should be down there saying, I don't care if a guy was in jail for 30 years and he got out, he's a felon. He has a right to have a gun in his pocket and to protect himself. He served his time. If he's out, then he's served his time. He's free. And let's restore his rights. Let's restore rights to America or Texans. I'm going to work on Texans. I want that's all I can do. I can't work on the rest of the states, but I want Texas free. If you're not free, my freedom's being infringed upon somehow, some way. But
So you guys are on the spectrum. You're libertarian. Where do you guys sit?
I've been kind of making a transition more to volunteerism ever since I first got that book from Adam Kokesh, Freedom, about a year ago, and then met y'all.
He's coming to Dallas soon. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm excited.
And Dallas and Austin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would consider myself a libertarian minarchist for years. I've been making more of a transition to voluntarism, anarcho-capitalism.
Okay.
Past probably 12 months.
Libertarian? Where are you?
definitely libertarian leaning.
Okay.
The two-party system's broke. I think this three-party system's broke with, I'll just say this, William Weld is a Roosevelt, a CFR member. This is broke up at that level. That's why I would just want to focus on Texas. The federal government's run amok. Matter of fact, if most people haven't read the Constitution. It's a very simple document. It's supposed to be a very, very small government, and it's not. These people are criminal, and they need to be put in prison for what they're doing and how they're ruining our freedoms and our liberties. The job duties of the president, are very minimal. So I believe that they should stay that way. The Ninth Amendment of the Constitution is about rights. If those rights aren't listed in the Constitution, they're retained by the people. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty much everything. You're free and yet our government doesn't. Those masters are telling us what we can't do. We need to stop this somehow, some way, and that's why I got into this nullification business, is because this is a way to stop their tyranny.
And is there really nothing they can do? So if a jury says not guilty, it's over.
They will send you back into. The judge will try to send you back into deliberations.
And I was going to say too, when we build stuff on the grand jury, sometimes.
Can you say what no bill is? Because
sorry.
I'm not familiar.
True bill is when. Well, let me explain how. There's 12 people on the grand jury. It takes 9 to true bill, which means it'd take at least 4 people to no bill something. When it gets true bill, it moves forward and goes to a trial in front of a trial jury. When it's no bill, it ends there. They can't charge them for that. But I did see them try to find other charges to bring them up on.
Okay, so the difference between a grand jury and a normal jury is that like a grand jury takes a first pass at it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And the purpose of the grand jury is to determine if there is enough evidence to charge this person with a crime before it
Take it
goes
to trial.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Let me say something. 1946, the Justice Department hijacked the grand jury system. It used to be in control of the people. They would literally take the DA and just bring him in when they needed to ask a legal question and then kick him back out. Eric still could kick him out, and he did, but we had a lot more control where we could bring these crooked politicians to trial. We could indict them. Have you ever heard of Boss Tweed?
No, I'm sorry.
The grand jury indicted him and threw him out of office. There was another case where, and I think Minneapolis, where sheriff was bad and the governor was bad, or the mayor was bad, and the grand jury indicted him and kicked him out of office. And the grand jury actually ran the government until they could get another election out. So there was a lot more. Yes, there was a lot more power in the grand jury. And that's something that I'm going to be studying in the future, but we've lost those powers because we're not educated on how the Founding Fathers set up the system.
And they don't tell you anything about that whenever you get selected as a juror. And you basically just walk in completely blind. They don't tell you anything about the process. Like my first day of actually doing cases, I didn't even realize that we were actually doing this until they were moving on to the second case. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is happening right now. That was our chance to ask questions about that case because we're doing 30 to 40 cases in a day. Most of them just go by in just a couple of minutes.
Hang on. 30 to 40 cases a day.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to make an informed decision on whether or not there's enough evidence for it to proceed to trial.
Yes, and it's completely controlled by the prosecution. The only people in the grand jury room are the jurors, arresting officers or liaisons of a police department that is presenting the case, and then the prosecuting district attorney.
So no one from the defense at all is present.
No, sometimes, very rarely, you'll get a packet from a defense attorney, and they'll encourage the jury not to read it and tell them it's a waste of their time.
Interesting.
Terrifying? Is
Yeah,
that
right?
another word for it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the grand jury is definitely different than a jury that actually hears the entire trial. You guys are
Both
just
sides.
there to. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing about trial by jury is the most mentioned right there is in the Constitution. Article 3 mentions it. Article 5, which is the grand jury. Article 6, which is the criminal trial jury, and then Amendment 5 is grand jury. Amendment 6 is criminal trial jury, and then 7 is your civil. So we don't need all these bureaucracies out there taking care of our business. If someone hurts us, we can go actually sue them if need be.
Yeah, like the common law paradigm, which is what our legal system is derived from, is just case law is only just things that have built up over hundreds of years of juries making decisions on whether you should be guilty or innocent for different things, right? And so that's how we develop this common law is through jury nullification, sort of, right? I can't believe like this stuff needs to be taught in schools, but of course they're not going to teach this stuff in schools. So were you an annoyance to them? Like an annoying procedural thing they had to deal with, or were they like, happy you were there helping, or were they just like?
You're talking about the prosecutors, or
like everyone you dealt with? Like
they were all pretty happy that we were there. I kind of had to find balance the whole time, not letting people know my ideals. I didn't want to get kicked off the jury.
You can get kicked off?
Yes. How? Yes. Talking about jury nullification is one.
What?
Yeah, how hilarious. Like, what's your motivation? I'm here to nullify all this shit.
Exactly. And they used to tell from, he gave me this book, The Conviction Factory, which talks about the history of grand juries. And it used to be told to the jurors their rights to not judge just the facts of a case, but the law itself. And they don't tell you that anymore. And if they find out that you know that, you can get kicked off.
That changed actually with the Fugitive Slave Act in the 1850s. The whites that were letting the blacks get free were going on trial because they were breaking the law, and the jurors wouldn't convict them. They voted to acquit. So they couldn't. The masters couldn't have that anymore. So they quit telling the judge and the defense attorney quit telling about nullification. And these bastards have been making a conviction factory out of make more laws, more criminals. I think that the attorneys out there, there's probably tens of thousands that graduate every year, and they got to keep making new jobs for them. So how do they do that? More laws. So that means more people breaking the laws, which means more criminals, which means more business for them punks.
So this is a concept that's been around for a long time. It's not something new.
No, our founding fathers talked about it from the get-go. Jefferson talked about it. It was an anchor. He said nullification was an anchor for the Constitution, that it would stay in check. Hamilton said something to the same effect, that you should judge the law as well as the facts. John Jay said basically the same thing.
Guys, I'm so excited by this. This is such a powerful thing. I'm just so it was used to set people free at Prohibition. It was used to set slaves free.
Yes.
Slave what?
Well, actually,
Did I say that right?
Yeah. Well,
People escaping slavery, right?
No, it was those that were helping the slaves escape.
Okay.
They were being put on trial for breaking the Fugitive Slave Act for helping the slaves. And they, up until that point, they were the jurors were told about their rights to judge the law and the facts, and to use their conscience. We know what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. We can tell that the punishment is too severe. We can tell that there's a bad cop, a bad judge, a bad prosecutor. We could sit there and read all this. We can take a law and say, hey, that's unconstitutional. Nullify it. No, not guilty. Send them home.
Were you about to say something earlier?
I have like a lot of questions about just like the whole process. So like, do you receive a letter just like with normal jury duty to become a grand juror?
A jury summons?
Yeah. Do you receive a summons?
And I got it. It was worked out kind of perfectly. I got my jury summons in the mail 2 weeks before the Don't Comply Katy Trail March, where I met all of y'all.
Yeah.
So, and he was out there handing out jury nullification pamphlets. So that's how I got into it, or learning about it. And I had enough time to go to the Fully Informed Jury Association website, learn more about it. And they also have this on there too, the Surviving Voir Dire on the website, which tells you how to get picked as a jury. I studied that, and I ended up actually not even needing it because the judge just randomly picked me.
So like, whenever you first received that letter, you were like, shit, I got a jury summons. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, wait, I want to go to that jury. Because you get summoned.
Well, I had heard of jury nullification before, and when I got it, I was interested. I just didn't know very much about it. And I just kind of didn't think about it until I met him.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was really excited about it after that.
Definitely.
And
And like, what kind of cases go through the grand jury?
Almost all of them are felony cases.
Oh, okay. So they're like the biggest cases.
Yeah, if it's
that
a
go through
misdemeanor or
trial.
something, it's probably not going to
Okay.
end up there unless it's some kind of special case where they need to go to someone, I think, out of the county or something. Do you know?
No, that's not my specialty.
Yeah.
Most of it was just felony cases.
Okay, so like if it's like a drug charge, and it's not just like some kid carrying a bag of weed or something like that. It's something bigger like trafficking or something like that.
Well, with the law, the way that the law is, I mean, most of them were possession cases.
Just
That-
really,
yeah.
yeah. You can get a felony just for a small possession.
Not small. It depends on what the drug is, too.
Right. Okay.
But I would say over half of the cases that we did were possession cases.
Really, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean that's not
Like a small amount or a large amount? Or?
It had to be a felony amount, which isn't really that much. I want to say it's over 4 ounces of marijuana.
okay.
So
yeah, but other drugs you could
Yeah.
yeah,
have like 1 pill.
of something crazy. Yeah.
Well, just something that's prescribed. You know.
Oh, wow.
So have 1 pill and that's a felony.
Yeah.
Which we had some of those too. High school kids just getting caught with like a pill or 2 in their pocket.
Yeah, and then their whole
Ending
world's
up
going
in
to get
front of a
screwed
grand
up.
jury. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that bother me most is we've got an 18-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, whatever, and we're putting them away for 20, 30 years, and we're making hardened criminals out of these kids. We have no grace and mercy for anybody. We have nothing but hate in our court system. It's an injustice system. That's why I'm fighting this. I'm sick of these bastards.
And then after 20 years, why aren't you rehabilitated?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you've robbed his entire life.
Yeah.
Like, the first 30 years of your life is when you're setting the trajectory for the rest of it. And if you throw him in a cage for 15 of that, there's no chance at any kind of success.
No. And you're talking about hate in the system. One thing that really bothered me too was the district attorney on her very first day was just laughing about people getting charged with stuff and hearing the evidence and telling the rest of the jury it's okay to laugh. We
So
need
just
comic
pure evil.
relief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess in most of these people's minds, the law equals morality, right?
Exactly.
If it's illegal, it's evil, and if it's legal, it's okay.
And that's what's messed up.
Yeah.
Even though like
And this is the antidote. We have an antidote.
even though that like most of this like politics and justice system is filled with hypocrisy, because most likely I'm not going to like claim anything, but they're also doing like drugs and stuff in their personal lives, but they're arresting people on a daily or sending people to jail on a daily basis for drug charges.
Yeah.
There's got to be some cases of hypocrisy going on there.
I mean, even the DEA mentioned that they make meth and sell it to people and to throw them in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you've got the DEA making drugs and they have labs, they have all the facilities to make drugs and distribute them and set people up. And this is one of the cases I read about. They not only once sold it to a guy, they kept selling it to him over and over and over again. So that wasn't just one charge; it was every time they sold it.
Yeah,
to him.
that's how they do
just
the
stack.
CI buys, confidential informants. Did a lot of those.
And that's wickedness. The DEA has they're in almost 80 countries. They have over 100 airplanes. I believe they control the drug flow. I believe they make sure the production happens, and I believe they bring it in. And this is my personal opinion. I mean, they've been busted with the Iran-Contra affair. They're bringing in drugs on military aircraft to sell to fund the Iran-Contra deal, and we've got a wicked government. We've got a bunch of evil punks out there that need to be put in cages.
Well, yeah, another example of the government. I mean, they would say, "Oh, we're caught possessing drugs because we're using them for, buys and stuff like that." But if selling drugs is evil for us, it's evil for you. And just like they busted the child porn site on the dark web, they didn't just take it down; they captured the site and they ran it for over a month. They continued to serve child porn to people for the purposes of busting people for downloading child porn. The contradictions are just off the charts.
Right.
They have no concept of consistency. They have none.
No.
I wanted to read something out of the Declaration of Independence. One of the grievances.
Need church music right here.
This was the Declaration of Independence was a letter to King George III, and they said to him, he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. That's what they're doing. When I hear the DEA, these guys are going on trial. They're getting everything's being taken from them. They probably already lost their job because they spent a month or two in jail. They're having to wait years to get to go to trial, and then they're threatened with 80 years in prison, and they take a plea deal. At 95% of the cases are plea deals.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to have trial by jury, not plea deals.
Yeah.
So we're getting trial by government right now. So the 5% that go to actually take their cases before the jurors, I'm there for them. I want to make sure that they get set free, and I will throw a wrench in the gears of the injustice system and fight this. But the DEA is evil. These are by the way, these three-letter bureaucracies are acronym bureaucracies are illegal. They're not. Nowhere in the Constitution do we give them that kind of power. Nowhere. So we've got a government running amok, and that's why I believe we need to get back to taking care of Texas. Screw the federal government.
So you're on board with the Texit.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're supposed to be independent countries.
Yeah.
We were never supposed to be one big country.
Like a federation of independent countries, so to speak, was the federal government, right? That was the idea?
Yeah.
Huh. So let's kind of get back on the story. So we know what jury nullification is, but they don't want jury nullifiers on the jury.
No.
So you can't just basically walk in for your interview, because they interview you, right? Can you tell about the process of how you get on a jury? What is that?
For me, it was more random. Like I said, I studied this trying to get picked. From what I understand, on a regular trial jury, they'll ask you questions like, what are your political affiliations, other organizations you're involved in, and questions like that. For me, it was really random. I was put in a pool of like a little over 100 people, and they asked some questions like if this is going to affect your job too much, or you have people that are dependent on you, and for medical reasons that you can't make it, then they would take you out of the pool. But I ended up staying in the pool, and the judge randomly called my name first, said I was the first member of the grand jury, and that he asked me if I had been charged of a crime. I said yes, and he said, was it theft? And I said no, and that's when he said I was the foreman of the grand jury. So that's how it went.
Could have been murder.
Yeah.
Rape, whatever.
But theft.
Yeah. Or you were like, you've been chosen, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
You're like, no, that's cool. It's cool.
I was super excited and just trying to act like I was kind of bored the whole time.
Yeah, you're just like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
So obviously the prosecutors don't want you guys on their cases because they lose by default. No matter how good they try their case, how good they argue, they lose.
Exactly.
So that's why they don't want you on there. But what kind of procedure? So to me, like, normally I would believe in a justice system and say that there would be a process in place to keep the prosecutors from manipulating the jury to select out the people that might vote against them. No, that's probably not the case. But what is the process? Like, do we know? Like, what do you have to be careful of, like, to keep from getting? Can you give me some tips? Like,
for a trial jury, you don't want to go in there with a book like this, and or this,
or a shirt,
or a shirt.
Jury notification. Hashtag.
You don't want to give them any clues that you're awake.
And you want to act kind of neutral too. You don't want to act like you have strong opinions on anything.
Right. You don't want to react to what another prospective juror is getting questioned by, say, the prosecutor, and you don't want to react to what they're saying. You don't want to, because they're reading you and they're doing everything they can to find out about who you are and what you believe, if they're going to be good for their side. So the prosecution is going to sit there and ask you a question, and you'll answer, and they'll just keep bobbing their head, and you'll just probably keep feeding information. You got to know that that's a trick that they have. If you got a bunch of tattoos, you want to cover them up You got long hair. You want to get it cut.
haircut.
Sorry, but you got to look the part.
What part do you got to look like? Like, who are they looking for?
They want a cookie cutter, just average Joe, nobody that, they don't want someone that can think for themselves. They don't want someone that's, independent and doesn't care what the rest of the world thinks. They want somebody that's going to give them a conviction. They're going to get their little 12-man jury together or 6-man jury, and they want a conviction because that judge and that prosecution wants to look tough on crime. And like the up in Pennsylvania where they had the Cash for Kids program, judges were getting kickbacks. I'm sure that's happening right here in Dallas, right here, all around the Metroplex. I wouldn't put it past any of them that they're making extra money on this stuff. So we got to go in there as jurors, and we've got to take a look at some documents like this, doing your best as a trial juror, Surviving Voir Dire. You go to the website FIJA.org and go to the library tab, and then scroll down the brochures. And this is there. There's another one called a primer for prospective jurors. This is a good little book. The Citizens Rule Book. They sell that for $1 off of FIJA. FIJA is a nonprofit organization that is all about education. So that's their sole purpose. They're limited on, last year, I think 2015, they only had a $57,000 a year budget, and they're helping people all across the state. So they're really, really strapped. So if anyone's got any extra cash out there, they could use it. But go to that website, go to the library and brochures, look up how to get picked as a juror. It's real important because you got to learn to play their game, and you got to beat them at it. And then once you get on there, you got to, don't be talking about nullification. You want to wait till the end. Now, if there's like 6 or 7 people on saying not guilty, then you can bring up the idea of nullification. But if there's only 1 or 2, just keep it to yourself and hang the jury.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you saw about 40 cases a day, once a week for 6 months.
Right.
By my calculation, that's 1,080 cases.
Yeah.
So 1,000. So first of all, 6 months is an insanely long commitment, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate your commitment and what you did to help people.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun doing it, actually.
From the bottom of my heart, like I have friends that have been through criminal court cases, and for there to be someone like you that devotes their time, that they don't have to, you can pull the strings and get off the jury. In fact, what we're doing by publishing this is telling people exactly how to get out of jury duty. Walk in there with a jury nullification shirt on, you can get out of jury duty, right?
Right.
But you didn't. You were aware that you could have, and you didn't, and you committed the time, and you change lives. Like I'm on here talking to camera, hours every week trying to change people's lives, and I don't even know if I'm doing anything at all. You absolutely 1,080 lives you had an effect on.
And it's a direct result for your actions.
It's a really empowering experience to be able to do that. It's really frustrating a lot of times, but it makes you feel really good at the end of the day when you go home and know that you set somebody free.
Yeah,
dude, this is a hero. Like someone that takes time out of their day to make a positive change in other people's lives. We call them heroes, and we got one on the show right here. And we're trying to teach you guys how to be heroes yourself. I will be a hero. I mean, like, can we sign up for jury duty?
Send them your own summons. You're like, I summon myself.
That is one thing too, because we're talking about the prosecutors want to pick people that they're going to be able to get convictions from. I don't know how it is in every county. In Collin County, though, from what I understand, I think we were the first jury to be kind of randomly selected through the driver's license. I don't know how they were doing it before, but I know in some counties you have to be recommended to get on the grand jury.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be awesome if you could sign up,
Yeah.
volunteer, and go.
There was no way they would let that happen. Because all the people that sign up would.
They're not that bright.
Oh, really?
Yeah. These guys have just been indoctrinated in a school, and they wear suits. we hold these attorneys up to be something special. They're not.
Yeah.
These are just wicked tyrants is all they are.
Well, here's what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to predict the future right now, ladies and gentlemen. So, and this is one of the reasons I'm helping you guys blow this message up, is why amplify this message as far as I possibly can, because you have a limited window to get this message out there before some high-profile case goes to some jury with a nullifier on it and gets set free. And it pisses all the politicians off, and they call it the jury nullification loophole, and they find a way to crack down on this bullshit.
Well, they have,
okay.
actually. In Louisiana and Oregon. 48 states takes one juror to hang the jury. In Oregon and Louisiana, it's now 3.
So it's almost...
It's starting.
So that's kind of how it is, though, on the grand jury, because with the trial jury...
So I predicted correctly.
With the trial jury, like you were saying, it only takes one person to nullify a law. But yeah, with the grand jury, since you have to have at least 4 people to no bill something, you got to convince 3 other people.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. So it makes it really frustrating when you're arguing with them and you can't convince them. And whenever I first went into it, I was wanting to argue with them logically about how it would negatively impact society, locking these people away and how they didn't deserve, to be in there. But then I kind of learned that it wasn't the best way to go around it. You don't want to cause too much attention to yourself and then understand that you're there to try to nullify laws. And a lot of them, too, are just
When you say they, you're talking about the other jurors?
The other jurors,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all this would be in deliberation, so they're the only people in the room. But I figured out it wasn't the best way to go about it, because most of the responses are going to be, well, they broke the law, so they need to be punished for it. What kind of a message are we sending to them if we don't punish them? So I learned, though, when an officer, detective, whoever is presenting the case is given all the facts, and they talk really fast and it goes by really quickly, you can ask them questions and try to figure out, was there a probable cause to search this person? And if the rest of the jury finds out that the police did break the law or didn't follow their oath to the Constitution, then they would be all for nullifying it.
You would just have enough because you convinced enough. You convinced 3 additional people.
Right. Yeah.
Because I assume, arguments, enforcing drug laws is immoral, those kinds of arguments.
Yeah.
They might work once or twice, but if you're on the jury for 6 months, eventually they're just going to be like, oh, you just don't like, you just don't like drug laws.
And
we're going to ignore you now.
Another thing, too, you get to learn everybody's personalities, kind of what they would be going for, ask certain questions, kind of manipulate the situation. Wow. But also, one thing I learned, too, you don't want to annoy them too much.
Right.
By asking too many questions every time. You kind of have to pick and choose your battles, because then they're not going to like you and not agree with anything that you say, and you don't want to make any enemies there.
So if you say, I don't know, do you vote no bill, or do you just vote? How do you vote? How does that work? How does the grand jury process
sorry,
work?
I haven't even gotten into that.
Let's do it.
So when a case is presented, an officer who's presenting the case will come in with the facts. They usually have like a piece of paper or computer that they're reading the facts of the case from. And the district attorney will ask them some questions about it. And also the rest of the jury gets to ask questions too. And it's basically it as far as how that part works. And then after they get done presenting all the cases, then it goes to deliberations where everybody has to leave the room, which is kind of fun because I got to kick the state out of the room while we deliberate. And so that's when I was in control of the jury, and I would just go down the list of each case on the docket, because we'd have a docket of every single case with people's names on it, what they're being charged for, and ask people how they felt about it. And I'd try to get everybody to talk and say their opinions.
You went over all the cases of that day at once?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if you like you were going to forget stuff in the first
You
case?
have to take down notes.
Yeah.
Other ways.
Yeah, so you had to like believe that these people were taking down notes the entire time.
Yeah, and I'd always try to write things down too when I'd notice something, like that an officer did that I thought that maybe the other jurors wouldn't like, little things like that. So, yeah, I'd go through each one.
How many other jurors were taking notes?
Very few. I would say maybe 3, 4.
You're not going to go through 40 cases and everybody's like, oh, yeah, let me just, detailed notes, my ass.
And most of them just agree with the prosecutors and the police anyways, don't have any real interest in it. They're just like, oh, yeah, they broke the law, they're guilty, send them to jail.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Some people are probably super shallow, just like, yep,
yeah.
broke the law, we're done.
That
Exactly.
cop said he did it.
Yep. Yeah, that cop, I trust that cop.
Yeah.
That's why we need to educate everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I do what I do.
Hell yeah.
So after you go through the docket, asking everybody how they feel about it, you take a vote on each case, and I would be in the form and I would write down how the jury voted on each case, and then when we're done with the deliberations, bring that back to the prosecutor, and then they would print the indictments for the ones that we true billed, and I would have to sign them. And so I signed hundreds of indictments that I hated doing, but
you're not signing that you agree. You're just you're signing that that's what the vote was.
right, right. And they on the first day too, because they don't tell you any of this or how this is going to work. You're completely in the dark, and they were basically just gave us this whole speech about how it's so great that we're here. We're here to uphold the Constitution and add checks and balances to the system, and give this whole speech about how we're not to be used as a rubber stamp. And then they gave me and the vice foreman an actual rubber stamp the same day.
Oh my god.
The same day.
Same
This
day.
is a rubber
Like,
stamp.
right after they said it.
Yeah. Well, they had me sign my name 3 times on a piece of paper. Earlier that day, I had no reason why, but yeah, they're back there making me a stamp.
Whenever you say that you came in the first day and they didn't really explain anything to you, and then you kind of just went right into it, did they?
Right.
So they basically just kind of walked you through the process as you went along, as if they don't really want. You're just like it seems like you're just a technicality. Like,
Exactly.
you just have
Yeah.
to be there. They're just trying to do what they want to do and use you as the tool to get it done
Yes.
because it's the law themselves. They're actually following the law, sort of, to some degree.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why is there glitter on your rubber stamp?
I don't know. I didn't see that.
Is there a party?
There might have been. Yeah, that was
Last day.
I don't know.
What's the sticker on there?
It's a BIPCOC, no government license, so that way
Above Ryan's head.
any members of the government got caught using it, they could be publicly shamed on the internet.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's a joke. You go to bitcop.org, they have a lot of cool little licenses you can print off and put on different things. But I had learned from Randy Kelton that on federal grand juries, they were actually, because this was in the courthouse, I wasn't supposed to take it home until the last day, but federal grand juries had been, people in the federal government had been caught stealing federal grand jury rubber stamps and signing indictments that the grand jury had no idea about. And so I learned about that probably the first week or so that I was on the grand jury. So the second week I was there, I just slipped that in my pocket and walked out with it. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's convenient to them for it to make your signature able to use for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but then of course you don't want to be signing like all those.
I did it anyway since we're deciding these people's fate. We can
signed it personally?
We can take the time to
Yeah.
sit here and sign each one.
So that's just like procedure to give you a stamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you act like just Joe generic, no opinions on anything guy. You make it through the selection process. You get put on a jury, and then once you're on there, you're doing these deliberations, and you can't talk about. You can't tell the other jurors that they have the ability to to correct law by
Right.
no billing things. You can't. You just
No.
have to kind of make cases in roundabout ways, because if you don't, what process do they use to kick you off the jury? Like, what would their reason be?
Probably jury tampering, I would imagine. Even though
You're on the jury. How can you tamper with it?
And by the way, I forgot to mention, when they present each case to the jury, the prosecutor recommends how the jury should vote on each case.
Wait.
And the jury, most of the time, follows what they say because they're in a position of authority.
The prosecutor would always recommend the guilty.
Sometimes, unless they think that there's not enough evidence for them to keep pursuing it to the trial level and not waste time on it. Then they might recommend a no bill, or if they truly think that this person shouldn't be charged. And it was interesting because the district attorney that was sitting there laughing at all these people being charged and saying, oh, this is a frequent flyer of ours, before their case is even presented to the jury, talking about their past and how they've been involved in all these other crimes.
Are they allowed to do that? Are they allowed to talk about past crimes?
They did.
But that right there is jury tampering.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Our government is tampering with the jury every day.
Sorry, this doesn't seem like a fair trial to me. Like, it seems like the defense is getting majorly screwed in this situation.
Well, I guess because it technically isn't a trial yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, true.
Every step of this process is jury tampering. Like kicking and like not selecting a juror because he knows that he can set people free is jury tampering. Like not selecting a juror because he's got strong opinions on politics is jury tampering. Like kicking jurors off for talking to the other jurors is jury tampering. Like every bit of this.
And they have alternate jurors ready to go too. So if someone gets kicked off or it has like a medical emergency and they can no longer serve, someone's already ready to go.
Okay.
Didn't you have a case where she recommended?
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to talk about. Yeah. So yeah, the same district attorney that's sitting there laughing at all these cases and the people being charged, she actually, I think like the second week that we were there, recommended a no bill on somebody that obviously broke the law. And so she was calling for the jury to do jury nullification. She didn't say that, but that's what she was doing. And I don't know. Well, she when the rest of the jury was saying, well, I thought we were here just to judge the facts of the case, and not how we feel about it. And she said, well, it wouldn't be justice to charge this person with this crime and have a felony on their record. And I don't remember too much about that case, but I know it was a kid being charged and she was a mom. And even though she didn't have any problem with throwing all these other kids in jail, something about that one struck her personally.
Yeah, so it's okay for her to exert her opinion over the jury and let the jury know when they can set people free, but not for the rest of us.
Yeah. So I was just really surprised though that she even did that.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
So,
do you have any other questions? Because I want to start getting into stories after when you're ready.
I have questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Deliberation. How does that kind of go? Do you guys, because you're kind of the leader as the foreman, right? So you decide which case you guys are talking about, and then you guys go at it and explain yourselves or something like that?
Yeah, it's up to the foreman how they want to do it, as long as they get a vote on each case. But yeah, I went through each one and had everybody speak their opinions. So
sometimes you're just like, do you have a vote on the? Sometimes you'd be like, okay, this case, do we have a vote? And sometimes they would just vote on it right away without explaining anything.
Sometimes, yeah. It depends on the case and how
cut and dry it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, and one other thing too about the no billing, true billing, how many it takes. I did find out you could take certain days off for work and things like that. So if there is less than 12 people on that jury, it's still 9 people to true bill. So then there's less people to convince. If you can get it down to 9 people on the grand jury, if there's 3 people, am I doing the math right?
3 people calling
okay. Exactly. It only takes 1 person to no bill.
Okay. So now let's talk about the thing I was excited about, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Can you tell us, and you don't get into any specifics that would get you in trouble, because we don't want to jeopardize you or anyone else. But if you have any stories about that you remember, and I know you saw almost 1,100 cases very, very quickly, but if you have anything that you could talk about where something came in and it was obviously a victimless crime or something, and you managed to set them free. Or it may be the opposite. If you tried, can you tell us about like how you tried to set somebody free, but you were unable to? Do you have any stories that you could share?
It's hard to remember everything over 6 months. And I don't know exactly how much I can talk about each one. I remember this one case though, with a guy that he was being charged with a felony. It originally was going to be a speeding ticket, but he ended up running away from the police, so it became a felony. I was able to ask, what he did as a job, and find out that he's going to be going into the armed services. But if he had this felony, he wouldn't be able to get in. So basically, tried to convince the jury that, boot camp is going to be enough punishment on him if he could get in. So.
Because it was a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a good one.
Cool. One life, not fucked up. That's so cool.
One of the other things too that
on the bar. Yeah.
was a really interesting thing. The second week of all this, they had a 2-hour class on drugs, and the Plano police brought in all these different types of drugs. And passed them around to us to look at.
Why?
I was holding a 2-pound bag of weed and heroin and meth, cocaine. They said it was so we would know what what we're talking about on each case for the people that don't know anything about drugs. But really, it was just a whole 2-hour class demonizing drugs and drug users. And the police officer that actually brought all this stuff in, I used to work at the gas pipe years ago, and I don't know if y'all know the history of all that, them being busted.
I know
by
they
the
sell
DEA.
bombs and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, they got
That's all I know.
they got raided by the DEA
I'm lame.
for selling herbal incense like K2 that we were making.
Okay.
And,
What's K2? I'm sorry.
It's like
I'm a drug virgin.
a synthetic cannabinoid,
Yeah.
so it's like fake weed.
Okay.
And still get you high.
Okay.
So we were selling that, and the DEA raided the place. I happened to be out of town that day, but the officer that was doing this whole class, he was part of that investigation, and I had actually sold him stuff while I was working at the gas pipe, and he's sitting there talking about this too, and I just have my fingers crossed that he's not going to recognize my face, and he's even passing out some of the packages of stuff that I helped package up and sell.
Wow.
So that was it was interesting, but yeah, it was all just to demonize drugs and drug users.
It's like you're back in elementary school and they're doing like a DARE presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Awesome.
Okay, so what was the purpose of that training?
Just to demonize drug users. They said it was just so that we could know what we're talking about as far as weights and stuff. Like if someone gets caught with like 0.02 grams of heroin, to understand that that's a usable amount.
That doesn't help at all. If like that, you know what would work if they made you take all those individual drugs, then you would know what you're talking about. Then you would know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
They walk in the morning. Guess what? Today is jury. Today is jury fun day. Oh wow. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm just looking at my notes. They also, I thought this was interesting. They use Dropbox to serve warrants, and then they get them instantly. They just, I don't know exactly how, because I've only used Dropbox very limitedly, but somehow they request it from the judge electronically while they're at a house where they need a warrant, and he can instantly just send a warrant over through Dropbox.
Yeah, I've heard you can do over the phone warrants.
Okay.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is
but I
probably
don't-
faster than that.
Yeah, so I don't know what the reason for using Dropbox is. if
It
there's
just
some
it's
other
a
reason.
cloud storage service. So if the judge drops the warrant to his side, then you can see it on your side within a few minutes.
Okay.
Like instantly.
Yeah, instantly, pretty much. Yeah, actually.
And another interesting thing too, like I was having to sign all the subpoenas to call in. Sometimes we'd call in witnesses for certain cases to talk or to get evidence, I usually would show up earlier than the rest of the jury because I'd have a stack like this big.
Because you're a badass.
I'd have like a stack this
Freaking
big
Superman.
of subpoenas to sign. And it's really interesting. They're using a ton of social media as evidence against people. I was subpoenaed people's Facebook accounts, Twitter,
That's good to know.
Tinder, all kinds of stuff.
Like what evidence
Their
do they
Tinder?
get for this?
Just like sometimes,
like drug deal chats or something?
gang involvement,
okay.
child porn stuff too.
Okay.
But they'd use it for just about anything. Just like even if they got committed a crime and they said their opinions about something on Facebook, then that they think that they could link to that, then that'd be subpoenaed. And
So it's pretty public information, not like anything like location services through.
oh, they do that too, yeah, and use pings off of cell phones. Have to subpoena all that too.
Gotcha.
So
Figure
what-
out someone's in the area.
Like run down like the range of crimes that you saw go by, like if you can.
I don't know. I mean, there was
Like
tons.
drug possession, child porn. You said
Strangulation cases,
Jesus.
molestation, a couple murder. We also had some that had to deal with hospitals doing.
you don't have to talk about anything.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I shouldn't
Okay.
say any more, but it was a
malpractice.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was a wide range, just about any kind of felony you can think of.
Wow.
But 60% were drug cases.
It depended on the day, but usually at least half.
Check this out. Since Nixon started the war on drugs, we have put over 40 million people in prison for drugs.
I was just watching a video on YouTube that compared the prison rates of the U.S. to all these other major countries.
It's wicked.
It's not even a comparison.
America is 5% of the world's population. We got 25% of the world's prison population. Per capita, we've got more than China. China's got 1 billion more people. I think they put away like 118 per 100,000. We're like 780 per 100,000.
We're like not so it's like 0.7, 0.8% of the population. Almost 1% of the population of the country is in prison, right?
I don't know exactly that
Okay.
that percentage, but I do know this. If you add up all those on parole, probation, and prison, we probably it's somewhere around probably 10 million people right now.
Wow.
And that's just pure wickedness. That freest nation in the world's got the most prisoners. What the hell? What the hell happened? People went to sleep. We need to wake up.
So half of our criminal justice system is dealing with nonviolent crimes, or
Right.
more than half. Yeah. And if we could free that up, maybe they could get to the real crime faster,
Right.
And spend more time on it.
A speedy trial used to be 60 days, and if they didn't have it done in 60 days, it was dropped.
A speedy trial is like 9 months or 9 years now.
Yeah, and all the cases that we did usually were at least a year old. So that means
Wow.
if these people don't have the money to get bailed out or anything, they're sitting in jail, waiting.
They've been in prison for a year.
Yeah, they're waiting for.
Waiting to see if they are innocent or not.
Yeah. And
You know what would be huge? Like in a just society, like if a cop and a prosecutor put someone behind bars for a year and then it gets no billed or if they're declared innocent, that cop and that prosecutor get to spend a year in prison.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Where is the justice, for these people?
Actually,
Wow.
let's put them in 3 years.
Sure. Yeah.
3
there should be a
times.
multiplier.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Any other any other problems? Like, did you identify problem areas or dangerous things that you saw? Like, I don't know. I don't want to get you targeted by the government, but I mean, was there some dirty dealing happening more than you've talked about?
most of it was just the police and the prosecutors just running their mouths and their opinions, and you're not able to unless you want to risk getting kicked off. But
Right.
I just saw a lot of that, and they do it in front of the jury. So
That's why we need our state legislators to reinforce what we used to have as a grand jury system and put it back in the hands of people and get that freaking DA out of there.
Wow.
And you would be surprised too, like how often, well, maybe not, how often the police are breaking the law and not obeying the Constitution. And that's how I was.
Not surprised at all.
So that's how I was able to get as many no bills as I did with
By
that.
just paying attention to that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And on a normal jury, which I assume normal juries are much more common than grand juries.
I don't know about that. I guess so, maybe. But
So like you see 1,080 cases in 6 months, and then they have to have an individual all day long jury, I assume, to handle each
Right,
of those
yeah.
1,000 cases.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a
So-
lot more normal juries to handle actually hearing all that stuff, right?
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, 95% of them are plea deals.
Oh, that's right.
Only 5% have the backbone to take
That's
it to take it to trial, and that's why we need to step up at the courthouses everywhere and pass out jury rights information so people know their rights going in there to protect these people from this tyrannical government.
And plea deals are immoral as hell. I mean,
Yes, they are.
they're effectively threatening you with your own life.
Yes, unconstitutional.
And when you accept a plea deal, one of the things that you sign when you accept the deal is a statement saying that you weren't coerced, when in fact the bargaining process is coercion. You know, it's
Yeah.
insane.
Amazing. So whenever the prosecutor is presenting the case to you, do you have the ability to ask them questions?
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes the prosecutors, but it's usually a police officer or detective or something. But yeah, sometimes they would, and that's the only time that you have to ask questions. And that's another thing, it goes so fast, and they're trying to make it go quick, so you have to, it's exhausting listening to it, trying to pay attention, take notes, ask questions. But that's the only chance that you have, is usually that couple minutes when they're up there talking.
Because you were saying now your best weapon is what they would say, basically like admitting that they have done something wrong whenever like doing the process of this trial, like breaking the Constitution or whatever.
Right.
So you would want to get them talking so that they could basically
Exactly.
show
Yeah.
their own mistakes.
Yeah, and it's funny when you're asking the police questions about them breaking the law, how nervous they
Ooh,
get.
that-
It's a lot of fun.
I can see that being a lot of fun. Yeah.
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 And another tip too.
So about that time when you broke the law, officer.
Yeah.
Think about this. They take an oath to uphold and protect
Yep.
your rights, and they break that. Let's just say the Fourth Amendment. They're supposed to get a warrant, so naming exactly what they're looking for, exact address, but they've got probable cause. They're breaking your right to have that check there. So right away, that should nullify that whole process.
Yeah.
You break someone's constitutional right, you should nullify it.
And one tip too for anybody out there that's watching might get picked for a grand jury. Be careful how much of your ideas of freedom you're getting out there to the rest of them, and how many questions you're asking. Try to pick and choose what questions you want to ask, because the rest of the jurors, they will get annoyed. There was one guy on the jury that I really liked who asked a bunch of questions that gave me ideas to ask other questions. But I mean, by the end of the 6 months, all the rest of the jurors hated him and just completely shut down anytime he's talking or asking questions. So you have to find some balance there.
On a normal jury, and I guess normal is the wrong word. On a non-grand jury, if it's can one person make a difference?
Yeah.
Yes, in 48 states, one person can hang the jury.
Yeah.
So
All
you
have
don't
to do
even
is-
need to talk to the other people.
No.
You
No,
just be
on a
like,
trial jury, yeah.
not guilty. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Exactly.
But when there's a majority, like
Yeah.
2/3 of them or more, saying, "Hey, this guy's not guilty," then you start talking nullification.
Okay.
So
And it's intimidating too, having all these other people mad at you that want to go home
Yeah.
and have no interest in being there.
Yeah.
this is a duty. We have a duty to go serve and protect one another against this government.
Which is another interesting thing. So like this is a reason why we want to live near other like-minded people, because if enough people in your community understand freedom and understand liberty and how to think, then there's a higher chance that one of these people are going to be on a jury that might affect your life if something happened in your life.
Exactly. That's a
right?
great point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there are good reasons to live near people that are like-minded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's little groups, like I'm learning about,
Yeah.
all over the country, where people are trying to start up these little kind of things.
Free State Project up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Corey Watkins is starting the Texas Freedom Grounds out in the Hunt County, by Lone Oak, Texas, which is where me and my wife are actually talking about moving to
really?
now. So,
Hey,
yeah.
Corey, look me up. We'll come out and interview you. That sounds fun. Because I don't think they're far from us, right? Like an hour?
And
hour and a
yeah,
half?
about an hour, probably a little more than an hour from here.
Awesome.
But, yeah,
But you
it's
want
a
to know
neat
how
idea.
wicked our government is. Look at the Branch Davidians. They were just a church, but they assassinated their characters and said they were doing things that they weren't doing. And this is a community that wanted to get away from all this garbage and be their own. And the
that's
government
scary.
went and blew them up. They used the military to do it, which is illegal as all get out. You look. Have you ever heard of MOVE? There were, I think, in the 1980s. It was it was a group of people, the black community. They wanted to get away from all this government tyranny. They wanted they changed all their last names to Africa. They started their own trading barter currency. They lived within several blocks of, they had a couple blocks where they all lived, and government went in there.
That's a lot of freedom. That's too much freedom for anybody.
And they went in there and blew them up,
Yeah,
and put a
took
bunch of
care
them
of
and killed a bunch of them,
Really?
and put them in jail. But of course, this doesn't hit the media.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, it's so we need. I know this is this. I'm talking government here, but we need good constitutional sheriffs. We do. We need someone that's going to say no to this garbage.
I think a lot of voluntarists are they're anti-cop to a fault, because even in a free society, you're going to need people to protect others.
Right.
And if I hire a police agency to protect me, they're going to need to be active in the community to do that. And we're going to want them to be awake people that can think and that are aware of how liberty works. So I'm not anti-cop, and so we can have these discussions. Like, if I want a sheriff that can think and that understands liberty, and this is something. I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
No.
This goes to something that somebody taught me when we were having a religious debate about atheism versus theism, and like, if we both arrive at peaceful, good principles, then I almost, to a certain degree, don't care how you got there. So if you're a constitutional, sheriff that believes that our liberty is derived from the Constitution, and that lands him in a good place, where he's doing good things and respecting people's rights, then I don't have nearly as much quarrel with him as I do somebody that doesn't even think about what they're doing, and they're just hashtag America enforcing
Right.
laws because laws are laws.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I'll say this. I'm not a believer in the municipal police department. They're unaccountable. We're designed to have elected constables and elected sheriffs. I can't say that they're all doing the right thing. Most of them aren't. There's only a few sheriffs that are doing the right things and protecting our rights. But I see you are carrying a sidearm, and that's what we all need to be doing. And it's going to be a heck of a lot politer society. When we see something go down, we'll stop it. So we're not supposed to have tens of thousands of police out there. We're not supposed to have it. They're not supposed to be extorting us for speeding tickets. They need to be just, it was us going to get a guy. If someone murdered their wife, it was us going out there, and there might be a sheriff. We'd go grab them, and we'd, there's a posse. We'd go.
That's kind of scary. That's like mob justice, though, right? Like,
But you know what? Yeah, I don't have all this figured out, but I know we weren't supposed to have tens of thousands of cops shooting people for a taillight out. It was not supposed to be this way. Those cops have been unaccountable, and these guys need to be put in cages for what they're doing. These cops that are taking lives for petty things has got to stop. And I guess it's
no, it's like it's a different standard. If I go into a situation and something small happens, like somebody bumps into me, and then I help escalate that situation to where maybe I could sort of claim self-defense if I had to shoot somebody, like that's fucked up. That I let somebody bumped into me, I let something that small escalate to that degree of violence. Cops don't have that same standard, because every law is a gun. No matter how small or simple or innocuous the law is, there is a gun behind it, a gun that will kill you. So if it's illegal to have a taillight out, they can they can and will and do escalate violence up to the point where you either give up and go along with it, subjugate yourself to it, allow yourself to be pulled over and given a ticket, or you're dead. Like they will continue escalating force until they win.
And I don't want to say too much about this, but when we did the Eric Casebolt case,
Can you tell if we're going to talk about that? I at least need to tell people what case that is.
Yeah,
'cause
go
not
ahead.
Everybody knows. Okay, go ahead.
well, it was the Craig Ranch pool party that happened in McKinney, the YouTube video that went viral with the cop pulling
Just
his gun,
lost his
chasing,
shit.
Yeah,
He just-
chasing kids around and
yeah.
putting knees into that girl's back. But
So that case came across.
I actually got to choose to do that case.
You choose what cases you do?
No.
Oh, okay.
This one I did.
Oh, okay.
The FBI and Texas Rangers actually came to me 3 weeks before jury duty was up, asking if I wanted to do it because they wanted it to go to an experienced grand jury, they said. And I kind of wish I didn't do it because looking back at it, they waited to bring it to us the very last case, very last day, when we had no chance to pass it. Because that is an option besides true bill and no bill. You can pass something to get more information or take more time to consider it. So it was the very last one brought to us. That you were talking about force.
Well, first I'll say that there's 2 instances additional of jury manipulation in what you just told me. They can pick what jury gets their case. That's wrong. And 2 is, they can pick when your jury gets a case.
Yeah. And so, but that was one thing that was brought up by the Texas Rangers when they were presenting the case to us, that if someone's breaking the law, we can't just be like, oh, hey, please stop. We have to enforce it. So we'll use any force.
Or they think they have to.
Yeah. They'll use any force necessary to stop that person.
At least they identify the problem. Well, not our perceived problem with their tactics.
Yeah.
Like, we have to go to the point of shooting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's not like they can think to themselves, well, I pulled this guy over for a stoplight. Maybe I should just let him go. They never think, maybe I should just let him go. Maybe this isn't worth escalating. It was just a broken taillight. Yeah. I would love to hear a cop that enters their mind.
Sheriff Mack.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He sat there and questioned himself one day. He pulled over a woman come flying through a stop sign, and he pulled her over, and there's 4 kids crying and throwing a fit in the back of the car, and she looked like a mess, and he's fixing to write her a ticket, and she was just like, give me the ticket, and he was sitting there, what am I doing? How am I making America better?
Yeah.
And he said, you're free to go.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and he started the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers of America program organization, which is getting constitutional sheriffs together, which is awesome. That's what we need. We need guys that are going to say, hey, is this really worth it? They didn't hurt anybody.
Because the first point of nullification is the cop. And cops don't realize that. Like the first point is don't enforce victimless crimes.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to be working on that too.
Yes, sir.
Police, you have the ability to walk away.
Yes.
Walk away.
That's called interposition.
Oh, there's a word for it. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds much better than just walk away.
Yeah, they can actually make a conscious decision and say, you know what, I'm not going to enforce this bad law.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure they'd get fired if they did that often enough or loud enough. But you know what?
Probably.
Ethics are worth getting fired.
Yes.
And one thing too, one of the cops, I wish I could remember his name, that was presenting a case to us. He talked about how all he does all day, sit off of 121 over there and just wait for violators. And once he finds some kind of traffic violation, all he does is try to figure out what other violations that they're doing, so that way he could end up taking them to jail or end up writing all these tickets. And he talked about how he felt bad about a few of these people that he did it, but I mean they
Apparently
broke
not
the
bad
law, so they had to go. Yeah.
Back in a long time ago, before I was really awake, I was wanting to get my T-close certification and become what they call like a volunteer officer, which is like you're a full-on police officer, but you don't work every day for the department. So maybe one day a week you go out on patrol in a patrol car with all the rights and privileges and powers of a police officer, armed and everything. You are a cop. It's just you're kind of a volunteer guy that is able to be called on in emergency situations. And I thought that was noble, and I thought that was exciting. And so before I started it, I started going on ride-alongs with real cops. I don't know if you know this, and I think everyone should really do this because it wakes you up and helps you be aware of what police do on a day-to-day basis and how much of it is horseshit and how much of it is immoral. But just you can do this. Almost any city that I know of, you can go to the police station. I think you call ahead or whatever, let them know you're coming, and say, "I want to do a ride along today." And you get to ride along with a cop through their day-to-day duties and activities, and you get to see them pull people over. You get to watch everything that happens. You get to see them talking to other cops and typing on their little computers and searching people and getting all this crazy information about people's personal lives. Just pops up on their laptop in front of them. It's insane what they know about you before. You have no idea how much they know about you when they pull you over for a speeding ticket. And I know this is a little off topic, but I think it's important. And so that experience woke me up to the power that cops have. And I don't think there's a human alive that wouldn't be corrupted by the amount of power that they have in those situations.
I agree with you. I was going to be a cop back in the late 80s, and I did exactly that. I went out and with the Dallas cops and with the Duncanville cops, and I wanted to help people. I wanted to make the world a better place, and I thought that was the job to do it. And I sitting in the break room listening to these cops talk to one another and watching what they were doing to people. They were ruining lives. And they were discriminating against people. They were prejudiced. And I was going, I want nothing to freaking do with this.
Exactly.
So I walked away. And I have 3 sons. And they wanted to all become cops. And it's funny, I've never mentioned this to them. And I've told them, I said, you know what? My 2 older boys, I said, if you become a cop and you violate somebody's constitutional rights, you lose my last name.
Ooh.
I am that serious about it.
Yeah.
You've got a family name to protect. And the rest of these punks out there, they obviously don't have a good name. But yeah, I saw exactly what you saw. And they weren't out to help people. They were out to hurt people and make money off of them.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, you nailed what my point was. I went along and I saw what they do, and I stopped wanting to be a cop because I saw it. And this was before I was awake. This was before I was a voluntarist. I was basically a libertarian that wanted to help people. Me too. And I saw what they did, and I was like, I want nothing to do with this. Because I would talk to the person I was riding along with, and I'd be like, we just, pulled someone over that is now in prison, and their life is pretty negatively affected by what we just did, but we pulled them over for, a stop sign, or I forgot what it was, the brake light out or whatever. And they, they literally say, well, we use the small laws to catch the criminals.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of that, making wide right turns and stuff like that.
Yeah. So they use the small things as a reason to start altercations that then get them the bigger busts that make them their career progress, I guess. Right?
You were on the other side of that too, right? Whenever you were riding on the highway that one time?
Yes.
I don't know if you want to tell that or not, but I mean, it's like the other perspective.
Well, it was like the 1-2 punch, right? Yeah. And so this happened in a 3-month period, and I'll tell the story really quick. So I rode along with the cop, and I didn't really like what I saw. And then I went on a trip to South Texas, and it was like an 8-hour drive. It was late at night. I was in my Vet at the time. I had a Corvette, and it's a loud race car. I track race it, so it's loud and flashy. I got onto the highway. I had stopped for a pit stop. I got on the highway, and I made noise getting on the highway because it's impossible for that car to be quiet getting on the highway. I didn't break the law. I didn't speed. I didn't peel out. I didn't do any of that stuff. It's just loud getting on the highway. Well, a cop noticed me, and I saw him get on the highway behind me. I'm like, okay, here we go. And so I, cruise control on 65. Don't break the law. Just straight and narrow. 30 minutes later, he finally lit me up. He had been following me for 30 minutes, waiting for things to pull me over for. But I knew he was back there the whole time. Broke no laws. Well, I mean,
so
I think it's impossible to break no laws. But so he pulls me over, and he's like, you changed lanes without signaling. You stayed in the left lane too long. You were speeding, and there was a 4th one. And I forgot what the 4th infraction was. But he basically said, that's 4 laws. I can take you to jail. And I'm like, I don't know what you're doing or why you chose to follow me, but I'm an innocent person just trying to go on this trip. And I've known you're back there the whole time. I specifically tried not to break any laws. And he's like, well, maybe next time you get on the highway, you shouldn't make so much noise. And he wrote me 3 tickets and didn't take me to jail. And I did none of that. But he just wanted to swing his dick. You know, he wanted to be that bully and teach me a lesson. And that was the 1-2. I was like, I'm done. This is not, I will never put my name behind a badge. That is insanity.
And one thing too, this talking about broken taillights and stuff, they'll try to use that as probable cause to search people too. Because they'll say, well, it's against the law, you broke a crime, so therefore we can't arrest you, and we have probable cause to search you if we're arresting you.
And you're speaking from experience on a jury where they tried doing that?
Yeah, and from what the district attorney told us.
Wow.
Me asking questions about probable cause and searches.
So I think one takeaway from all this is everyone should go ride along with a cop to get a picture of what they do. If you get an opportunity to be on a jury, I think this is our call to action, guys. Like, I'm going to say a piece and then you guys are welcome to chime in. This is one of the best, most effective ways to literally change the world and change people's lives and set people free and put criminals that deserve to be behind bars behind bars. This is not something that you run from. This is an activism. This is a form of activism where you get to change the world, not something to be, I mean, yes, it's an inconvenience, but you can be a hero to people with this. That's what I wanted to say. Like, this is one of the most inspiring things I've heard of in years.
Yeah. And don't run away from a jury summons. It's an opportunity to make an impact in someone's life. Probably the only opportunity you'll get to actually use the judicial system to set people free.
Yeah, this is our founding fathers did something really cool with this, and it's like I said, it's the most mentioned right in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. They set it up and they gave you a gift. And that gift they wrapped up in an envelope, and it's called a jury summons. And they had the foresight that we would have some troubles, and so they want you to go keep your government in check. And protect your fellow man and be that hero. So
be a hero. That's the takeaway.
Yeah,
we're telling everyone how to actively be a hero. Like, this is it, guys. Like, I don't know what you think, but I hope I get a jury summons now. Who says that? Who says that?
I've been excited, waiting for another one. I actually got one the last week of my grand jury. Yeah, I got another jury summons, but they said I was exempt since I was still serving on the grand jury.
But you could take it if you wanted, right? Or no?
I don't know. They said I was exempt, so.
Well, I mean, I would never expect you to join another jury because, like, 6 months of your life is.
Yeah, work wouldn't be too happy about it, but I would definitely do it again. I'd love to.
You would do it again?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was really frustrating at times, kind of an emotional roller coaster, but I would definitely do it again. I'd love to. It was very eye-opening to see everything that happens, how our system actually works. I mean, you hear about a grand jury indictment, but most people have no idea what that means or how that happens, and. So it was a good learning experience, and was able to actually make an impact in some lives.
Yeah, like learning about how our system works, I think, is the best way to make people not lose faith. I kind of need people to correct their perspective because a lot of people have a rosy impression of how our system works. They think justice exists. They think cops are for the most part doing good things. But riding along with cops, being on juries, seeing the machine grinding people up and throwing them in cages will correct your perspective real quick.
I will say this: one of the things we make a mistake as we think that just if we're not doing any wrong, just like when you weren't doing any wrong driving down the highway, that we're okay. I think that was a great example. There's another one out there. We've got a political prisoner here in Texas. He started in Alaska. He started a 3,500-man militia. Taught self-control. He felt that if you lose control, you give control to the authorities. So self-reliance. Our government didn't like that he was spreading the Second Amendment like he was. His name is Schaefer Cox. He had something called the Liberty Bell Project, where it was like the cell 411 they've got out. You know, if someone was in trouble, they could hit the cell phone and boom, people were there to help out and film or do whatever. But they have him locked up on a thought crime. He just repeated what I think it was Thomas Jefferson said, that from time to time, the tree of liberty needs to be fertilized with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And they set him up on a lot of BS. He did no wrong, and they've got him in jail for 26 years. And so you always got to be a step ahead of them, you know, and that's why we need to educate one another so we can start setting people free from these bad prosecutions.
Okay.
It's very important too. I just wanted to add this. If you are a liberty-minded person and you get a jury summons in the mail, it's very important for you to go. Not only are most of the people there just statists that want to throw people in jail for breaking the law, but there's a lot of conflict of interest. And when I was on the jury, even though the state wasn't allowed to be in the room, that doesn't include the people working for them that are on the jury. Like, we had a police officer on the jury, a Plano police officer. We also had a prison guard. We also had teachers. So they're all.
That's the entire chain
Yeah.
of innocent drug conventions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's very
Convictions.
important
God.
to respond to your jury summons.
Wow. Well, I bet he's on the freaking union too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Anything anyone else?
Oh, this is amazing. I learned a lot.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys are awesome. So
That was
Thank
great.
you.
I look forward to trying to attend some of your events. The recent events have been at like 6 and 7 a.m. or something.
that's what we're doing right now at
Yeah.
401 West Belknap in Fort Worth. We're handing out brochures to prospective jurors, and hopefully they read that and find out about their rights. I did have a judge come out at me last Monday, big guy, and what are you handing out here? Show me, you know. And I'm like, well, who are you? And I'm Judge so-and-so, and I pulled out my camera. I said, well, I'm going to film this. He hightailed it right back in the building.
Really?
Yeah. So, but
You're Judge so-and-so? Well, I'm King Dick of the West so-and-so.
But I do want to say to your listeners, go to FIJA.org, read as much as you can, watch the videos, send questions, Facebook from the website, and share it with all your friends. That's one of the big ways we can start sharing this message. Start putting quotes out there from FIJA. The Kirsten Tynan, the director, works very hard to help inform volunteers and you know what our rights are and how to protect ourselves from these tyrants when we're out doing this kind of work. She'll be glad to answer any of your questions.
We'll put all the links that you need people to see in our description for this video. So
Great.
definitely.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope to, have more stories. Like if you have other people that are on juries and they can have, they have stories to tell. If you hear from other people, let me know. We'll bring them on. We'll talk about it. This is one of the most critical ways we can make a difference now.
Definitely.
And you guys are doing it. You're a freaking hero, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.